Hello and welcome to the show. So, this is the first episode, and hopefully, many more to come. So, a bit of background on me. My name is Josh. I'm an actor, also into music quite extensively and singing and this and that. Got a passion for a few different things as well. We'll get up to all that. The real thing is why I'm doing this. So, for the longest time now, I've been waking up probably about 2 a.m. Well, not even waking up, I've been staying up until about 2 a.m. every day, laying in bed thinking about this, which really comes down to, you ever felt like you want to do something and you have these passing thoughts every so often about, I'd like to try something or I'd like to do this or that. More specifically, in this case, I wanted to do a podcast. I've been thinking about it for probably the better part of going on now about maybe 6 to 12 months. And it's just been this thought that's in my head. And probably, I'd say maybe the last fortnight, it's been really keeping me up at night thinking about when should I start this project. And it always seems so easy. It seems like this idea that I'd get into it eventually. One day I just, have had done it. But I guess last night it really hit me that, well, every journey starts with a first step, but if you never take that first step, you never actually get anywhere. But the thing is, it is always difficult to take that first step. So I thought, well, why not just have a crack at it and, see how it turns out. And here we are today. So this is hopefully the first in many other entries of, maybe podcasts, and maybe I want to try and make this more of a lifestyle thing too. So I like to bring in a few other things like vlogging as well. But like I said, we'll come back to that later. But this is really about why I'm starting this project today. So another thing I kind of wanted to get into as well is, I sort of touched on this earlier, is that feeling of having not done anything for a while. Now, I don't mean like depression or anything like that, or that feeling of having not achieved anything. It's more the fact that I've got a lot of creative interests. Like I mentioned before, acting is a big one, but thanks to the pandemic and so on that's happened right across the globe, it's really slowed down that industry and it's become quite difficult to get work, quite difficult to even find an agent now, because there's not really a need for agents when there's not really much acting work out there either. So that's challenging. Same with being a musician as well. If you want to play anywhere live as well, it's difficult because you can't play live music anywhere. So yeah, it is really challenging. So I thought, well, instead of just sitting around, going through the same day on repeat, getting up, playing video games, watching videos, jumping on YouTube, watching movies and so on, which I love all of those things, or going out in the motorbike and whatnot. They're all great things, but none of it's really flexing that creative muscle that I've got. So yeah, I thought, why not have something that I can hold myself to, be beholden to, and try to do something new. So a bit of a thing I wanted to sort of touch on though was how I wanted to structure this. So moving forward, I guess I don't want to go too much into it and really break it down into steps because no one really wants to hear that. But really, I wanted to kind of just bring in a couple of topics, a little bit of a life update here and there, what I've been doing. And occasionally I've got some guests I want to bring along too. And we'll get to that when we get to that eventually, if we get to that step. So one big thing I wanted to mention right now is I've been for probably, I guess it's been on and off for a couple of years now, been getting into playing guitar. I've had guitars in my life for a long time, and I'm a massive music advocate too. Absolutely love music. Listen to all sorts of things. A pretty broad interest in music as well. So I can listen to virtually anything and appreciate it. I don't really like sticking into one genre, and as a result, I always hate that question when people ask, well, what are you into? What do you listen to? Because it's so broad. It really depends on, what's your favorite music at the time. So at the moment, I'm listening to a lot of Weezer again, which I've got a pretty good relationship with Weezer in my life. What I mean by that is the first album I ever actually owned was going back into the 90s. My sister actually bought it. It was the Blue album by Weezer. And strangely enough, I got it into it. I found it on, I think, the Windows 95 CD. There was a Buddy Holly bit in it, the video clip to that song, and it was just hidden on the CD, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was in, like, do you remember those things that, like, you'd get into the Windows CD and you could install Windows, but you had that other option as well of having a look at the media on it. Sometimes it'd have games on it, but I don't remember if it was an Easter egg on the CD or if it was actually on the CD and you could click on it. I guess it doesn't really matter, but I remember getting into that, and eventually I got the album because I didn't even know who they were at the time. And my sister ended up discovering them. She's massively into music as well, and she does her own things and writes her own songs, which is cool. And yeah, I got into this album, and I remember for the longest time, it wasn't until I'd say maybe when I was about 18 or so, I had this, I don't even remember what brand it was. I think it was like it wasn't Philips or something like that. It was like maybe it was a no name, I don't even remember. But it was this, you probably have seen them. It almost looked like an iMac, but in a CD player form. So it's this big blue round CD player, and it had I guess a semi-transparent top to it, and like emphasis on round. It was like properly round, not like a ball, but like a circle. It kind of looked like a modern day robot vac, but taller. So probably about like 2 Coke cans high, if that's a system of measurement. And I used to put the Blue album on every single night, and I'd go to sleep to it, and I'd listen to it from start to finish. And that CD player, you put something on play, and it will play it from start to finish. But when it gets to the end of an album, it'll count like 10 and then just turn off the whole thing. And that was it. And I guess because of that, I went through some hard times after high school as well. So it always had a soft spot for me. Coming back to playing guitar again, I've been picking it up and trying to, I'm rusty as hell, I should say. Pick it up and try and get back into it. And it's been a bit rough. I'm at a stage where I can teach myself, which is awesome. So teaching myself all sorts of chords and things, and one of the main reasons I wanted to learn guitar is because I sing as well, so I thought it would be awesome to be able to accompany myself instead of relying on other musicians, which, especially like I mentioned earlier, in a pandemic, it's kind of difficult to rely on other people. So everything is quite distant now with that. Like you don't really get to see anyone or anything. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to make that more depressing than it is because no one really wants to hear about that at the minute. But yeah, it's been fun. I've been playing the song "Photograph" by Weezer, which is the second album on the second song on the Green album, which is not my favorite album, but there's a lot on that Green album I really loved. I think Pinkerton was my favorite album, but look, it's like I said earlier, what I like changes depending on my mood. You know, sometimes I'll go through these stages where I just want to listen to like Danzig or something like that. And then other times where I just can't stand it and I just want to listen to something more poppy like Jamiroquai or even just like folk music like Tim Buckley or even Jeff Buckley. The Buckley boys, boy and dad, as they're known. So yeah, that's probably the biggest update there. Same with gaming. It's kind of rough at the minute because I've kind of gone through all my games and we're in a bit of a slow patch now because Cyberpunk's not out. Nothing's really out at the minute, so I picked up Red Dead again. I've already finished it a long time ago. It's been a long time. But it's kind of funny because I've gone back and I decided, you know what I didn't do in Red Dead? I never did all of those. This is Red Dead 2, by the way. Red Dead Redemption 2, if you're confused with any other type of Red Dead 2 in any other media. So I picked it up again and I thought, well, the camp at the start. So in a bit of a background in this franchise, there's a camp that you get to, not the first one that you start at, but there's one that's called Horseshoe Bend, and it's near the town of Valentine. If anyone's played this game, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And there's crafting in the camp, which requires you to do a lot of hunting. And I never did it because in the first time around, I was too captivated by the story and I just wanted to keep going through it. And I've decided, you know what? I'm just going to get as to the minimum amount of gameplay until the thing opens up. And then I'm just going to fire straight through all of these crafting missions. Well, not missions, but these crafting things, which requires a lot of hunting. And tell you what, the amount of hours that I've sunk into this to try and upgrade that camp for what seems like basically cosmetic items which do nothing, I feel like I haven't really got good returns from it. The amount of time versus the enjoyment, most of it's just been frustration of me thinking, where is the bloody raccoon and when is it just gonna spawn? Awesome, it spawned and it's a 2-star one or a 1-star. So yeah, nothing below 3-star will give you a perfect pelt, so that's frustrating. But yeah, I've been going through that, but it's just kind of funny now to me because I'm at the start, which is chapter 2, because chapter 1's like a prologue. Prologue, I pronounce that weird, prologue. Prologue. And it opens up then, you kind of get into the open world, you do a couple of missions to unlock some items. But I got to that point, and because I've been just roaming around, one thing has led to another, and without doing any story missions, I've max upgraded the camp. I've done every single upgrade in there, every single cosmetic thing in there too. I've crafted every single satchel that you can get for Arthur as well. So everything is maxed out. And on my adventures, it's led me to find things like all the treasure maps at some point. And I've also gotten all of the treasure from all of those and a whole bunch of things. And from selling different pelts and whatnot, Arthur's thousands of dollars rich. The camp is full of money. Everything is booming there, and Arthur's just balling out of control. Yet all the dialogue still seems to imply that they're all poor and hard done by. It's like, no, you guys can retire and buy a farm now. Arthur's killing it. So it's kind of broken the pace of the narrative a little bit. But yeah, that's the main thing I've been playing. It's kind of gotten to a point now where I don't need to do any of the crafting, and I can just kind of roam around and do what I want. But I don't know, it's kind of killed part of the enjoyment for me. So I don't know what I'm going to play next. I was looking at getting maybe the Tony Hawk 1+2 remake or remaster or whatever you want to call it, but I don't know if I really want to play something I've played before. I went through this phase a while back of playing all these remakes and watching remakes of things and going back through nostalgia, but I think I'm done with nostalgia. I think having a look back through the last section of remakes and stuff that we've had forever, I'm nostalgic out. I don't want to see another Star Wars film. I don't want to see any of this stuff again. I want to see something new. I miss the years of when we had when The Matrix was groundbreaking in 1998 or whenever that was. And you look at that year and every single film that came out was amazing. We had some stellar films back then. So let me look this up. 1998 films that were released. I'm going to go through a couple of these, and they're all big films that were original films, original IPs. We got The Truman Show, for instance. Things that weren't remakes. Blade. I mean, Blade's based on an IP, but you can't have everything. It's just that there was so many things that came out that year. I think The Matrix was 1998. I don't recall. I mean, Small Soldiers came out that year. Say what you will about that film. Wasn't great, but, it was pretty cool. You had also Rush Hour came out then. I'm not going to go through all these. I'm just going to be listing films forever. I mean, you did have some films like Paulie that came out, and Dr. Dolittle also, and Blues Brothers 2000. So look, all in all, it wasn't a great year. But then again, you had American History X. So there was a decent amount of films that came out, but I just want a year like that again, because, I mean, what have we had in the last 10 years? What, Birdman? That's it? It's depressing. I mean, there's been some good films out there, we had Parasite recently, which is amazing. Same with Snowpiercer as well, a while back. It's been quite a few decent films over the past decade, but I don't know, it's running thin. And it seems like everything is just a Disney thing now, or Marvel. They're all Disney now, because Marvel's Disney, all that kind of stuff. Just kind of depressing when you're interested in it. You just want to see something taking a risk, but I guess because everything now is just so bloated, it's so over budgeted, unless you're looking at Blumhouse stuff, which is hit and miss. But yeah, it's a little bit on the downer side for cinema now, which is kind of sad. But yeah, I kind of got over nostalgia with games as well. So I don't know. I'd love to play the Tony Hawk one, but at the same time, I keep thinking like just hold out for Cyberpunk next month or whenever it is. I think it's actually November. Just depressing. Or hold out for something new. Just want new experiences. Life's too short to do the same thing over and over again. So I did something really, really fun the other day that I never thought I would bother doing, which was so I've got a motorcycle. I've got a CBR 1000, a 2012 Fireblade, which is a pretty fun, pretty slick bike, pretty ridiculous, and I love it. It's completely standard. The only things I've done to it is braided brake lines on it, some good pads and some good tires, and yeah, it hammers. It's fun. You can lean it over and throw it through corners, and it's a beautiful bike. And I never thought that it really needed anything, but I had this thing in my head, and I was practicing in a car park, and I realized that with the power band in it, you don't. There's a lot of go in the bike. There's a lot of torque. But having said that, though, you don't really get to experience the bike until it's above like 5,500 RPM, or maybe closer to around 6,000, somewhere around there. But to get it to that, like I was in a car park just practicing, and I was just practicing emergency braking and just doing some hard acceleration into braking. And I realized that even on full throttle in the car park, I was running out of room before I even got into before it even came on cam, which I don't know. I kind of realized I had this notion that unless I'm in like twisty roads where I've got it always at high RPM, not really getting the most out of the bike. So I thought, well, how can I fix this? And the easiest way to me that sort of made sense was just to buy a sprocket for it. So I went out and that's exactly what I did. I changed the front sprocket from a 16 tooth to a 15 tooth. And lo and behold, the difference that made, I mean, at first I didn't think it was going to be much. And I was driving through pretty dense traffic and it didn't seem like it was much. But I went out later that day and man, the difference that it made was just astounding. I went to that same car park and like I mentioned just a moment ago, when I went full throttle before, I could get to like the end of the car park before it even came on the power. I can't even get full throttle anymore. It's ridiculous. So now if I try to go full throttle, it just lifts the front wheel. It's not excessive, but man, it's sharpened it up and it's made it so much more fun. And I'm at the stage now where it brakes amazing. Like I I don't think I can really do much else to really improve the bike. I thought about maybe doing another sprocket, doing the rear one, adding another two teeth, but I think right now it's perfect. Any more than that, it's just going to turn it into a wheelie monster, which I don't want. Like at the moment, it's my only vehicle, it's my daily, so I don't want to go too excessive. I think if I was to make it perfect, like if I was really nitpicking, like there is one thing I've got a budget for and buy, which is some tank grips as well, because I think that'll help a little bit with throwing it around. But if I was to really nitpick, there's three things I've come up with. Number one would be to retrim the seat or get a new seat for it, or get a new seat and retrim it. Because the standard seat is so slippery, like really slippery. The second you get on the brakes, you have to really brace yourself, like really squeeze your knees into that tank, which without tank pads, you're still going to slide anyway. Otherwise, that seat is just like this really shiny, slick vinyl. And if you're wearing Kevlar jeans or you're wearing leathers, it doesn't really matter, but you don't really stick to it. So that's one thing I'd like to sort of change to a more kind of, I don't even know what the term for the material is, something that's more like almost like a neoprene kind of finish, or like a suede finish. Something that's got that really matte, coarse finish to it, so you don't just instantly slide and nut the tank, because to say what, that's not fun. The other thing I'd do too is I would change the bars on it, and because it's got pretty reasonable clip-ons on it, but I think for long trips, my wrists never cop it at all, but my back tends to after a while. So I think if I was really to nitpick, I'd exchange the clip-ons with, I think they're called Healy bars, but it seems to be it's pronounced Healy bars, I think, but it looks like it's spelled Heli bars. But it's a company in the States, and I think they move the bars, I think a couple of centimeters, almost an inch, I think, an inch taller, I believe it is, and also about an inch closer to you. And each end of the bar, because the bar's normally angled down towards the road, it's actually angled a little bit straighter. But when you see them on the bike, because the factory one clip-ons are already kind of risen anyway, they clamp onto the triple below the triple tree clamp on the fork, but they actually kind of go up above the actual triple clamp. So when you have these ones on it, it doesn't really make a huge difference to the aesthetics, because I hate it when you look at those bikes that look like a super sport and then you've got these bars that are on risers which are like way sky high and I don't know, like naked bars on it. I just find them looking a bit strange, like a stunter's bike. Like each to their own. If someone likes that, great. Me, no, not for me. And because it's my bike, I don't think I'd do that. So they're the two things I would do. And I did mention there was a third. The third thing I reckon, I actually really like the standard exhaust. I like how it looks. The bike's not too loud, and I like a quiet bike, to be honest. I don't like the attention. I like the riff-raff, and I'm getting older now, so it's highway drone, all those kind of things, attracting other people's attention. It's not really something I'm after. So I thought if push comes to shove, if I had to choose, I'd like an exhaust that is almost the same loudness, like volume wise, decibel wise, as the standard one, but has a little bit more rasp out of it. And the main thing, on decel, I want it to sort of pop and crackle. Something where you've got that pop, pop, pop. I think that'd be amazing. So that would be my main nitpicks. And if I did those three things, I think the bike would be perfect and I'd never get rid of it. I love it. But that got me thinking, what if I did get rid of it? What would I replace it with? And for the longest time, because people have asked me that before, and I've always thought, oh, I don't know, some kind of sporty naked, like a GSX S1000 or something. But you know what? No. I actually know now what I would get. Well out of my price range. But in a perfect world, if I had the money for it, I would buy a 2020 Triumph Speed Twin. So Speed Twin is, I don't know if, like, what's a better way to phrase this, whether it's like a more street sensible ergonomic Thruxton, or it's a more sporty, lighter weight Bonneville. Because they're all in the Bonneville kind of range, but I'd kill for one of those. I just like the fact that it's like a modern neo-classic bike, but at the same time, you've got like all that old school retro styling, but it's not full retro. You got LED turn signals on it, LED daytime running light in the headlight. You've got, what is it? You've got like an analog set of gauges on it, but then you've got like a digi center in it too. It's pretty rudimentary. It's not like the most over the top crazy display, and it looks like it's a little bit on the older side, but the technology in the bike is like cutting edge still, which I love. So you've got fly-by-wire or ride-by-wire, as they call it in bikes, throttle on it, which gives you 3 separate throttle maps you can choose from, which is pretty cool. Then you've got traction control on it. You've got ABS, modern forks in it, and you've also got these big bloody Brembos on it with a double front disc. And it just seems like it's the perfect bike to me. I just like something that's got all the sporty character in it. I like revvy engines too that, you know, are kind of fun but, you know, torquey. That's what I want. I think my days of having a really loud 4-cylinder thing screaming its head off like my old CBR 600RR, I think those days are done. It just doesn't appeal to me. Doesn't. And I don't want to get into that street Rossi kind of stuff and get myself killed either, so it's not my jam, baby. So, yeah, anyway, this was a bit of a quick life update, what I've been doing lately, and what I'd like to get into. I think in future, what I'd like to really get into is when I've got a guest on, I've got a few talking topics I'd like to get into. Same with, I want to get back into comics as well and go through what I've read and what I am going to be reading and whatnot. Because I do love comics, more specifically graphic novels. I absolutely loved the hell out of The Walking Dead. That was one of the main ones that really pushed me to get back into comic books again. I read quite a few comics in my time, but not in a long, long time now. I think when The Walking Dead ended, it kind of felt like that closed the door on comic books for me as well. Just because it was such a big long haul. I've been reading that for like, what, a decade or however long that's been running for. And it was just like this door had closed. Like that chapter, that's over with. And I didn't really want to start anything else again. So I think that door's starting to reopen, or at least a window. So I'd like to get back into that again. And yeah, like I said, there's a few things I wanted to get into. Same with movies and series I've been watching. I've got a few things that I like to talk about, but I'll save that until next time. So that's been just a little bit about me. I hope you've enjoyed the listen, and I'll leave you to it. Have fun, little stallion humans. Goodbye.